Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Enlightened Indigenous Medical Intuition. Identify the root causes of disease using the Akashic Records and Ancestral Wisdom. My name is Stephen Dyna. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm really blessed to be with you here because part of what I love about my job is getting to explore deeper dimensions of the universe and on the path of transformation and awakening. We're going to get to do so with a really remarkable guide. Her name is Dr. Jennifer Lisa Vest. She's an Afro-Indigenous medical intuitive, healer, and author. She's taught quite a number of programs now for Shift, and recently we did a 7-week program with Dr. Vest that people just really raved about. And because of that great feedback, we're actually going to do a brand new 12-week advanced course that we'll share more about later in the event today. So more to come with Dr. Vest. So thank you so much, Dr. Vest, for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Great. Well, I want to begin our time. I know you've got a lot planned, but let's have a little bit of your personal backstory in terms of the content you're going to be teaching today. Like, what really drew you to it, and how did it open in you to be really looking at things like the Akashic Records?
Okay, well, I was on this path my whole life, and not always willingly, but I had a lot of gifts as a child, and I had spirit teachers who kept coming to me and kind of showing me what my life was supposed to be about and what I came to do. And although I did spend a fair amount of my young life trying to resist that, what happened along the way was I got a lot of training in both traditional kind of academic situations and also traditional indigenous contexts. And I ended up becoming a medical intuitive. And in the process of working as a medical intuitive, I discovered the Akashic Records. It was really interesting because I had been visiting a library my whole life, ever since I was a child, an energetic library, but I didn't know that's what it was called. And then one day I got clarity from an Akashic Records reader that it was called the Akashic Records. And so at the time, I was working with a lot of clients and helping them to understand the physical and emotional causes of disease. And I was also sometimes accessing the spiritual causes, but I was doing so through mediumship by tapping into their aura. But once I started frequently going to the Akashic Records, I was able to get a lot more information about the spiritual causes of illness. And this really just opened up a whole nother resource for me as a healer. Over time, people started coming to me specifically to visit the Akashic Records and to get information about their life purpose and their pre-life contracts and karma, et cetera. And so I began teaching medical intuition and Akashic Records, and teaching Akashic Records as one of the places to get information about spiritual causes of illness. But more recently, I was called to expand my offerings to look more explicitly at ancestral medicine and also ancestral sources of illness. And this really is something that started to feel really important really recently. I think along with what's going on in our country right now, I suddenly felt this urgency for us to begin to kind of delve more deeply into how can we address these inherited intergenerational wounds? How can we address and heal those so that we can be better healers, be more tapped in and tuned in to what we came to do. And so more recently, my guides have really pushed me in that direction, which has been exciting. And I see how much it can really help people to kind of go to that next level in terms of their healing.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That journey is really fascinating to these frontiers. And so maybe it would be useful to understand that if we're talking about the Akashic Records and the sort of spiritual causes of illness, why is that often helpful to understand if you're trying to get to the actually shifting a disease pattern or an imbalance in the body?
Well, when people are really sick, especially when they're sick and they're not getting help from their mainstream, practitioners, their mainstream doctors and healthcare practitioners, the first question they always have is, what is this? What's causing this? What's the physical cause? And that's really where people start. And that's an important part of the equation. But then once people have gotten that fundamental information, okay, what is it? What's the diagnosis? how do I proceed? There's often other layers that it's important to explore, because most illness is caused not just by physical causes, but it's caused by emotional causes, mental causes, spiritual causes. And so we can get into the emotional causes, we can get into the mental causes, what are the thought forms that are informing the illness. But once we start getting into the spiritual causes, that's where it really gets interesting. Because then we can also start to understand whatever is manifesting in our life as illness as tied to our spiritual journey. And when we understand that, what it does is it empowers us. Learning that you have a condition, learning that even learning that there are certain emotions associated with that condition isn't always empowering. It can sometimes maybe just feel like more information. But when you start tapping into the spiritual causes, what you learn is that your soul made certain choices before you incarnated. And when you understand that, you can't help but feel more agency over your life. You stop feeling like a victim and you start feeling like, oh, there was a reason for this. There's a reason that this illness manifested in my life at this time. Maybe it's to push you in the direction of your life purpose. Like a lot of healers will get very ill before they step fully onto the path of a healer. Maybe the illness is helping you to understand or teach something, which is a part of your purpose. Maybe it's part of a contract you have with another soul. And when we start to delve into these spiritual causes of illness, we really start to have really a broader and a deeper understanding of not just the illness or imbalance in our body, but we start to have a deeper understanding of who we are, who we really are on a higher level.
I love that. I love that it actually increases a sense of agency. One question around relating to the Akashic records, which sometimes make it seem like all of our intentions and our karma is all very fixed. How does that understanding what's the Akashic records and some of the patterns laid down actually increase our sense of agency?
Well, what we do with the Akashic records is we use it as kind of an energetic source to get information about all of our previous lifetimes and our pre-life decisions, and it can help us really understand a lot of facets of our current life. And when we have that expanded understanding, because in the records, you're able to look at yourself from a higher perspective. You're able to look at yourself and, kind of the decisions you made and what your life is looking like. And when you're able to look at yourself from that higher perspective, you begin to understand that everything that happens in your life is a part of a purpose, right? And it's purposeful, it is meaningful. And it's a lot harder to see yourself as the victim of chance or bad luck or other people's bad decisions when you recognize that you had some decision-making process that was involved in that life. Before you even came here, you decided, for example, I'm going to have a soul contract with this person. And that other soul that you decide to have a contract with, the way that soul might manifest on the earth plane is in them being an abusive father who was, verbally abusive to you. And when you're in that dynamic, it feels very out of control. It feels very victimizing. It may feel like I have no agency in this moment. But then when you are able to go into the records and kind of have this broader perspective and say, oh, I see why I signed up for that contract, why I signed up for that relationship with that person. And sometimes it's because you came to teach that other person something, or they came to teach you something, or the two of you came to teach other people who are witnessing it something. And when we have that broader understanding, whether it's about our relationships, our health, our career, all of these things can be explored in the Akashic records. When we start to have a better understanding of that, we can't help but feel more empowered and feel more not only in control of what's happening, but in control of what will happen, because we can make decisions based on that information. For example, sometimes we have a soul contract with somebody and it's over. And we are still trying to engage with them. Maybe we're still trying to save the alcoholic cousin, or we're still trying to convince the codependent, relative to change their ways. And in fact, that contract is over and it's time to move on. And that could be very liberating, and also just really help us to stay on track with what our purpose is and what we came to do.
Really great overview and explanation of that. And I'm wondering if you can go a little bit deeper into the ancestral side of this. So there's like one thing is like our own patterning. So how are we sort of also choosing to incarnate into ancestral lineages that need healing? And that's part of what we're enacting to in order to bring to consciousness and to heal.
We are. And so, before we're born, we make decisions about every, facet of this life. Most facets of us. We don't have control over every detail, but I don't want to give that impression. But we make these kind of big decisions about, okay, what kind of body am I going to incarnate into? What ethnic group, what religion, what gender, what sexuality, where? But we also choose our family. We say, oh, what family am I going to incarnate into? And we often incarnate into families because of certain ancestral gifts, but we also can incarnate into a family because of ancestral wounds that we recognize are either going to help us to grow as a soul, or maybe they're wounds that we have decided we're going to come and help the family heal or bring attention to them, point to them. Sometimes your job is just to point to things to get people to pay attention to certain patterns. And so we may have chosen that ancestral line, because of ancestral gifts, because of ancestral wounds, because of a family pattern that either is going to help us fulfill our purpose, is going to help us develop our gifts, or is going to help us to fulfill a contract with another soul. There's lots of reasons why we might have picked a particular family with a particular lineage. And it's interesting because, some people get so caught up in, oh, what were my past lives, that they try to kind of ignore their current life.
Mm-hmm.
Family, like, oh, my family doesn't get me. And it's like, but you chose that family for a reason. Right?
Uh-huh.
And so, one of the things that we delve into in my courses is how can we both try to understand better our soul's journey, right? What our soul chose to do, and that includes things like past lives and karma and life purpose. But then also, why this family? Why did I choose this lineage? What do I have to learn from this lineage? And what do I have to contribute to this lineage as a healer?
Interesting. There's a fellow named Sequoia Trueblood, who's a Choctaw elder, who always said, "We incarnate to transmute the wounds of our ancestors," or something like that. And I think there's a deep truth in that. So it's sort of like there's some sort of overlap between our own individual karma and the group karma that we're working on, it sounds like.
Yeah, so group karma is where we choose to incarnate into a particular group. And group karma is, there are certain groups that came here to teach certain things as a group. And so when we choose to incarnate into that group, so we're talking about things like ethnic groups, racial groups, gender groups, right? Certain groups that have been really well defined in our society as a result of certain historical processes. And those group identities are often used to teach humanity a particular lesson. And so what I say to people is, when you pick a group identity or a group karma, particularly of a group that's oppressed in some way, it's like you're signing up for extra credit, you know?
It's a great way to look at it, yeah.
You came here to pursue your own personal karma, your own purpose, but you said, oh, say, I'll also, let me work also on helping, Native folks teach humanity about the importance of being connected to nature. Let me also sign up for, African American group karma, so I can teach humanity about how not to treat people in a subhuman way. Oh, let me sign up, to be a woman so that I can help people to
Mm-hmm.
understand connection to creation, right? And so we sign up, right, for these different group karmas, either because we just want to also participate in that valuable work, or sometimes it's because it helps us to evolve as souls. It helps us to, ascend or become really fuller in our understanding of existence, to have these different experiences and these different opportunities to teach from kind of different vantage point.
Do you find that that souls often will incarnate on both sides of things for a while till so they kind of reduce the energy of it, like if they're oppressor and then oppressed or alternate?
Right, right. That's what we all do is, in order to, that's what karma is. Karma is just balance. And so if we have a certain number of lifetimes as a male, we're going to incarnate as a female so that we can balance that out. And if we have, yeah, incarnations where we're an oppressor, we're going to then incarnate as a member of an oppressed group. And it's not always the same exact groups, right? But we just want to have, as a soul, we want to have this really comprehensive understanding of everything. And so we need to have all of those experiences, because what you'll see sometimes with souls, if they just keep saying, oh, I want to be a man again, I want to be a man again, well, it's a lot easier to be a man in most societies because there's more opportunity and privilege and freedom. But if that same soul incarnates into a woman with the same purpose, and then they're facing all these obstacles, people saying, you can't do that, you're a woman, you can't be a freedom fighter, you can't be a philosopher, you can't be a scientist, whatever they wanted to do as a part of their life path, it's then going to challenge that soul to grow. Because then how do you pursue your life purpose when you encounter obstacles based on some aspect of your body or your group belonging, right? How do you navigate that? That grows the soul.
I think that's such a wise perspective on things. Do you want to say anything about the particular time period of now that a lot of people feel like we've incarnated for this moment, for a larger shift on the planet, this kind of this sense of like that we're going through a deep transformation of a lot of what we've inherited right now, and just share a little bit about this sort of the timing of incarnations and the why of that.
Yeah, this is go time. So, we've been talking for years about this shift in consciousness, and many of us have been aware that we incarnated to participate or facilitate this global shift in consciousness. And what's really clear now is that moment is happening. We are seeing so many people are developing their gifts right now. People who maybe were sleepers, like sleeper intuitives, like they weren't really tapped in and tuned into their gifts, are now tapping in. People's gifts are really, developing at a faster rate right now. People are becoming more aware of the fact that they did incarnate for this moment now. If you incarnated to go through what we are currently going through as a planet, it was not by accident. You didn't just end up here. You weren't lost. You're like, oh, I guess I'll incarnate. No, we all incarnated into this particular time period, knowing that we were going to be here for this major upheaval and this major shift in consciousness.
So you see what's unfolding in the collective right now as part of that larger design, it sounds like.
It is. And I know it can be hard to see because a lot of people are suffering. But unfortunately, that's often the case with soul growth, is that we often grow through challenge. And we often have to go through some things before we are really willing to expand our consciousness. And so right now we're going through some things, as a country here in the United States, but also as a planet, where we're going through some very difficult political upheaval. But it's one of the positive impacts of that is that it's causing a lot of people to really tap in and tune into their gifts, and to get real clarity about, okay, why did I come? Because when you're in a crisis of any type, the question is going to come to you, okay, what do I do in this moment? What can I do in this moment? And it is at times like this that we begin to really soul search and to ask ourselves, okay, what is my purpose? What did I come here to do? What special gifts do I have to contribute to what's happening right now? And so this is like a catalyst for all of us to grow. It's a catalyst for us to, really get clarity on who we are, what we came to do, what our gifts are, what we can contribute. And so in that regard, it's an exciting time to be incarnated into.
And it sounds like really tuning in about what those gifts are to contribute are going to be connected to the particular family or lineage or challenge systems that we incarnated into as well.
Right. So we do incarnate into certain families because of the opportunities it affords us, and also the challenges. And so this is why you often find intuitives who come from families where they have multiple generations who have gifts. When you do that, you're kind of setting yourself up to succeed. You know, as a healer, if you incarnate into a family that has generations of healers, you're going to get that training. You're going to get that, you know, gifts in the blood, the epigenetics from that family, and you're energetically going to benefit from having those ancestors around you who are going to then assist you in your work as a healer. And so finding out more about what is my lineage, who are my ancestors, how are they helping me, how are some of their unhealed wounds creating blocks for me that I need to be aware of and clear. This is all information that helps us to become better healers, and it also helps everybody to become better people when we get clarity on, you know, what are those family patterns, how do they either help me or hurt me, and then how can I change those family patterns, you know, for the generations that are coming after me.
Your perspective is just so clear and really wise, and provides a wonderful context for understanding the challenges we're in too. I want to invite you to take us now into an experiential that is going to ground some of what you're sharing on the high level in people's individual lives and give them a more palpable sense of how to connect with some of these deeper teachings. So you want to take that time now?
All right, I want to take you on a guided journey. And so I'd like you to just wiggle around, get comfortable, and when you're ready, you can close your eyes and begin to take some nice deep breaths, slowly and deeply, inhaling relaxation, exhaling any stress, fear, doubt, or worry, inhaling relaxing blue light of relaxation, and exhaling anything you need to let go of. Just focusing on your breath for a moment. Notice that with each inhale, you become more and more relaxed. And with each exhale, you feel more and more free. Just enjoy how it feels to be relaxed and to breathe. Now focus your attention on the crown of your head and the top of your head, and notice there is a wonderful tingling sensation. On the top of your head is tingling and vibrating, and as you focus your attention on it, it begins to grow up, up, up into a cylinder of bright white light. And as it grows up into the air, you notice above you a giant golden sun. And you recognize this golden sun, for this is your higher self. You reach your cylinder up and you connect it to the giant golden sun, plugging your little self into your higher self. You begin to charge up. All of that divine source energy begins to flow down into the crown of your head, filling you with love and wisdom and power. And as that energy moves down and around you, it tunes and expands each chakra in your body, moving down and around you in a giant circle of rainbow light. In this rainbow bubble of light, you are protected, you are expanded, you are bigger and brighter and bolder. And you just relax into that expansion, feeling how powerful you are. You are now ready to go on a journey. In your mind's eye, you see in front of you a crystal staircase, a spiral crystal staircase. And you move towards that staircase. This staircase will take you to other realms where there is information available for you today, and you are excited to travel, to learn, to understand. And you begin to ascend the crystal staircase, going up and around from the first to the second level. You're feeling lighter and lighter as you ascend up and around to the third level, rubbing your hand along the crystal banister, feeling yourself tuning up and around to the fourth level. You continue ascending up and around to the fifth level, getting lighter and brighter with each level. Up and around, you move to the sixth level, and up and around, you continue upward to the seventh level, up and around to the eighth level, feeling lighter and lighter, moving up to the ninth, to the 10th. We're almost there. Finally, we arrive up and around on the 11th level, where there is a beautiful doorway of light. And you walk towards that doorway of light and out into a field of flowers. And in the distance, you can see a majestic building. It's beautiful. And you are headed for that library, that beautiful building where the Akashic Records are held. And as you cross the field of flowers, you feel the flowers sending you energy, little butterflies sending you attunement. And you come across a small babbling brook with a little bridge, and you cross the bridge listening to the sounds of the water. On the other side of the bridge, you arrive at the large door of the library. You open it and enter into this beautiful, etheric place. It has tall ceilings and books from floor to ceiling, shelves everywhere, hallways with different rooms. And there is a circulation desk and a librarian who approaches you. This is a being made of light, and they are here to assist you. You give them your full name, and they begin to lead you down a hallway. The librarian is taking you to the right place to get the information that is best for you today. They are taking you to the theater room, a room that looks like a theater with comfortable chairs and a large screen at the front. And there is a guide here called the projectionist who will assist you with reviewing past lives and pre-life conferences to get you information that you need today. You sit down in the comfortable seats, the lights begin to dim, and you hear the projector rolling out the film. And on the screen, images begin to appear. You can see them and hear them and feel them. And you are being shown an image of you, of a meeting that you had on a cloud with your guide, your incarnation guide, that you sat down with to plan your current life. And you're sitting in on this conversation, listening in, eavesdropping on what was discussed between your soul and the guides about this life. The guide is talking to you about what you are coming to do in this life. Listen into the conversation as they discuss your purpose. As they discuss your purpose, they begin to discuss what gifts you need to have during this incarnation. And the guide is suggesting different gifts to incarnate with. And now you are discussing what type of bodysuit to wear for this lifetime. Your guide is showing you a wardrobe full of body costumes. And you're discussing what would be the best body for this lifetime. Some of the bodies are tall or short, athletic. Some have disabilities. They're different colors, genders. There's all kinds of bodies. Together, you choose the most appropriate body for this lifetime with a clear understanding of why. And now, sitting on this cloud, the two of you begin to discuss your group karma. They discuss whether or not you would like to sign up to belong to a particular group that is coming to Earth to teach a particular lesson to humanity. And you can hear now and feel which group you chose and why. What was the lesson you came to teach through that group? The information is flowing to you effortlessly. You hear it, you see it, you feel it. Understanding. Just tapping into that understanding. And now the conversation moves to time period. You're talking about why, when, and why. When is the best time to be born in order to fulfill your purpose and express your gifts? Which is the best family to incarnate into at this time, at this moment in history? Just receive the information. Now thank your incarnation guide. The movie stops playing, the lights go on. You thank the projectionist and you exit the theater room. You walk back into the hallway, bringing all of this knowledge with you. And you walk down the hallway out to the exit, greeting the librarian on your way out and giving thanks. You walk back out into the bright sunshine across the babbling brook and the small bridge. And as you are walking away from the librarian, you become more and more aware of all of the information you received. And as you walk across the flowers, the field of flowers, you begin to integrate everything you've seen and felt and heard. And you see the crystal staircase and begin to make your way down faster than you came up. And with each movement down and around from the 11th to the 10th to the 9th, you get heavier and heavier to the 8th to the 7th. You keep descending. And as you descend, you feel this wonderful feeling of bliss come over you. And you descend again to the 6th, to the 5th, to the 4th, to the 3rd, to the 2nd, to the 1st. And finally, you're back, ready to return to the current moment, the present moment where you find yourself. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And now it's a good idea to take a moment to write down anything that you received. And just know that over the next 24 hours, you'll continue to receive information and clarity.
Great. Well, thank you for that. I know that people are still doing some writing, but can do that in the background. And if anything else you want to say about how to really make this a more regular place that we can access wisdom for how we're living our lives, because I found that very valuable myself.
It's really helpful to, to do an Akashic Records meditation again and again, because each time you go, you can get new information, you can ask new questions, you can get a deeper understanding. Sometimes we go and we see symbols, we hear words and we're not quite sure, what does that mean? And then we reflect on it and it gets clearer. And then we go back to the records and we ask another question. And so, yeah, visiting your records on a regular basis can just expand your understanding about your life in so many ways.
Beautiful. And I love the feeling of a higher purpose behind the choices. So, because I haven't really approached sort of being a white man like in that way. And it's like, oh, I really got like the sense of what the higher purpose of me incarnating a white male body was to actually like, be a way shower to other white males out of the sort of a culture that was being created and then towards the new one that we need to create, which is much more egalitarian and mutually honoring and synergistic. And so it's kind of provided a wider context than I thought of for why this body, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's all intentional. And I think it helps when we get clarity on that, that we chose these bodies to facilitate what we came to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Great. Well, I know that we want to talk about your upcoming course, which is an extraordinary way to go deeper, and we'll start that in a minute. Anything else that we haven't covered that you wanted to make sure to get across today?
I just want to encourage people to consider the possibility that you incarnated at this moment now with great intention, and that regardless of how challenging things might become for you, that you always remember that you came here now with purpose, and you have gifts and resources available to you spiritually, um, to navigate this present moment. And I really wanted to emphasize that for people.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really come across. So thank you for that. Well, let's talk about your upcoming course, which is an advanced course and actually builds on the last course that you taught, which is really quite extraordinary. So let's go into that. So Dr. Vest has agreed to teach a brand new program. It's called Advanced Ancestral Medicine and Medical Intuition, Diagnosing and Healing the Root Causes of Disease. So as you can already tell from this hour that it's really going to the real root causes, like multi-generational soul intention kind of causes of disease and how we can really orient to healing those. So it's all at the URL intuitiveancestralmedicine.com and intuitiveancestralmedicine.com. This is a 12-week program, and For those who are not in the 7-week program, you're going to get the opportunity to have that bundled in with this program so you can go through the core teachings and practices and get the full benefit of the whole journey. Dr. Vest, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your intentions for the 12 weeks, and then we can go through the modules and see what's coming.
Yeah, my intention is to help people to go a little bit deeper in the VEST protocol. So I created this VEST protocol for medical intuition with the guidance of my guides that helps people to go through a multi-step process of learning how to identify physical, emotional, and spiritual causes of illness. And in this course, I really wanted to delve much deeper into those spiritual causes, and in particular, how they're connected to ancestral gifts and ancestral wounds. And so it's really an expansion of my, a kind of a deepening and an expansion of my work in Indigenous medical intuition.
Module 1 is called Exploring Ancestral Medicine in Indigenous Context to understand how your health is shaped by your ancestors.
So in this module, we go through like the Indigenous roots of medical intuition and how we can rely on Indigenous wisdom in understanding, for example, intergenerational trauma, and how we have all of these resources within ancestral traditions of medicine to help us to navigate health issues in our life.
Module 2, embarking on an in-depth exploration of the VEST protocol and spiritual causes of illness to address root spiritual imbalances.
In this module, we go a little bit deeper, looking at spiritual causes, how they can be differentiated from emotional causes and physical causes, and then how they can be connected to ancestral patterns and ancestral wounds.
Module 3, working with ancestors to understand inherited patterns.
So in this module, we look at intergenerational trauma, energetic imprints, epigenetics, and how things travel across generations.
Module 4, soul contracts, group karma, and disease in the VEST protocol, and discovering the gifts that come with ancestral trauma.
So here, we're going into the records, we're finding out what is that group karma, what are those soul contracts we have with our family members, and how are those contributing to disease.
Module 5, using trance states to work with ancestors.
In this module, we go into how we can work with music and nature and ceremony in order to go into deeper levels of trance so that we can access more information.
Module 6, the Akashic Records Part 1, discerning the spiritual origins of illness to become a better healer.
And so here we go into, learning how to access those records to get all of that information, what your gifts and role are as a healer, and how to get some clarity on that.
Module 7, the Akashic Records Part 2, refining your methods to gain insights into inherited conditions, healing gifts, and soul contracts.
And so here we go deeper into getting even more information from the records, and specifically getting information that provides clarity on your family and your ancestors and the role that they play in your development as a healer and in your own physical well-being.
Module 8, addressing cultural, racial, and historical trauma to heal the wounds of displacement and oppression.
And so here we're looking at all of these impacts like, colonial trauma, forced migration, oppression, and how that impacts a lineage, and how working with our ancestors to heal some of the impacts of those disruptions can help us to heal the future generations.
Module 9, diagnosing and releasing intergenerational trauma, advanced techniques for clearing lineage blocks.
And so in this module, we're actually looking at energetic work that we can do to not just identify, but begin to clear some of those patterns.
Module 10, using the VEST protocol to heal intergenerational trauma.
And so we would go into more in depth here on how can we heal trauma that's been passed down to us through the generations? How can we address it energetically through different rituals and ancestor honoring ceremonies?
Module 11, distinguishing intergenerational dysfunctional patterns from karmic entanglements for healthier family dynamics.
Okay, so we have individual karma, which informs our life, but then we also have intergenerational entanglements, karmic entanglements, curses, imprints that are passed down. And it's important to be able to distinguish those two, and so that we can figure out how to address them each individually.
And finally, Module 12, creating healing spaces with love, respect, and humility, the ethics of a community healer.
So, as the author of The Ethical Psychic, I always include information about the ethics of our work, how to do it in a way that's respectful and responsible, that is culturally appropriate. And this is what we go over in this module.
Well, what a great program. And it really couldn't come at a bit better time in terms of working through all this karmic mess that we're activating collectively. And there's really an opportunity to go deep into that, which is part of contributing to the healing of our collective right now. So again, it's all at intuitiveancestralmedicine.com. And so if you choose to join, you will get not only the 12 90-minute live sessions that we just went through, there are also time to ask your questions live of Dr. Vess. You'll get recordings of every session, both video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight. There's weekly exercises for home, a Facebook community group to support you and deepen your experience, as well as small group time to connect with other participants. On the page, you'll see a number of extra bonuses that are designed to enhance your journey. There's a digital guide from Dr. Vess called Deepen Your Understanding of the Vess Protocol. The next bonus is called Dr. Howe's ebook on the Akashic Records. In this fascinating 13-page e-guide, Dr. Howe explains how relations with your soul group, including your family of origin, can be better understood by studying the Akashic Records. So you'll learn more about the valid reasons you incarnated with this group to assist in your soul's transformation and how these souls were specifically chosen to make contributions to you. And as I mentioned, we are bundling the full 7-week companion course called An Indigenous Approach to Intergenerational Healing that builds upon the core teachings or that actually creates some of the foundational teachings that the advanced program builds upon. And when you purchase the advanced course, you're going to get that bundled in together, and you can complete this material at your leisure, but it's best to do so by the time the course starts on May 15th. I'd also love to hear more about the 7-week Indigenous Approach to Intergenerational Healing course and some of what you found so valuable in teaching that and what people came away with.
Well, it was really exciting to be able to bring in the ancestral component to the work that I do with Indigenous medical intuition. And so while it included, going over the best protocol and looking at physical and emotional causes of illness, we got to delve more deeply into what is the role of ancestors and how do we bring ancestors into our healing practice. I think it was a good introduction for a lot of people. There were people in the class who had a lot of questions about, how do I include my ancestors? And they had never really done it before. They didn't know how to do it. And so people were grateful to learn lots of different like rituals and techniques for recognizing and honoring ancestors and kind of inviting them into our healing practice.
Very exciting. And I know we just got great feedback from students on our side. And finally, I want to bring attention, there's one special bonus folks get if you sign up by midnight tonight Pacific time. This is our encouragement for you to go to the page at intuitiveancestralmedicine.com and really tune in about what is your right next step. And if you choose to move forward today, you're going to get a special video meditation with Dr. Vess called the Akashic Records Ancestor Meditation. Want to share a little bit about that meditation?
Yeah, it's a longer meditation. In class, I do short meditations each week, which are nice. But sometimes you want to spend more time in a meditation where you can really get more information. And so in this meditation, we go to the Akashic Records and we ask questions about your ancestors, how they connect to you and how they connect to your healing gifts. And we spend just more time just going into more depth and finding out, what is your ancestral medicine.
Well, that's a great reason to sign up right away. So it's truly going to be an amazing program. I don't know anyone else who can synthesize so many different strands of wisdom and intuitive knowledge and medical intuition and ancestor wisdom as Dr. Vess can. So you're in really good hands. We've kept the investment accessible given the length of the program, and it includes the full original 7-week program. It's 3 payments of $347, or you can save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $946. The course is going to begin May 15th and run Thursdays at 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern, but even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, in the community as well. There's some beautiful testimonials of Dr. Vest's teaching and work, and so you're really going to be blessed to do this program, I'm quite sure. So again, it's all at intuitiveancestralmedicine.com, intuitiveancestralmedicine.com, and you get that special meditation when you sign up by midnight tonight, which is the Akashic Records Ancestor Meditation. So, Dr. Vest, we're at the end of our time together. Always a pleasure to be with you and so much deep insight. So, anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering doing the advanced program with you?
Yeah, I encourage people to kind of tune in and ask yourself, is this the right time for you to begin working more closely with your ancestors? Is this the right time for you to kind of level up your healing work? Is this the right time for you to help your family or yourself to let go of any intergenerational wounds that are holding you back from stepping fully onto your path and doing what you came to do? And if the answer is yes, then this is the course for you.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for that warm invitation and all the wisdom that you've shared and really your dedication to healing and uplifting humanity. So thank you, Dr. Vest, for the blessing of you, and thank you all for joining. And if you'd like to go further into the full advanced course, you can do so at intuitiveancestralmedicine.com. And again, the name is Advanced Ancestral Medicine and Medical Intuition, Diagnosing and Healing the Root Causes of Disease. So thank you so much. Many blessings.
Thank you.